This is part 2 to legal definitions. The first thing I want you to understand is when you first walk up into the courts, you usually give an oath, and you usually do that by stating your name for the record and raising your hand, swearing. Usually an oath is a contract, and that's what it all consists of. It's them getting you to swear that you are telling the truth, and if you are not telling the truth, then they can try to prosecute you for perjury. Usually it's an oath taken, contract signed that they are making you do. But another thing that people need to understand, the advice, when lawyers and attorneys give you advice, they are not necessarily informing you on what is your legal way or option out of the trouble that you have gotten yourself in. They are usually offering you an opinion. Advice is something, it could be truth or opinion or just their belief. Now, information on the other hand is different. It is to inform you. To give you advice is to offer a suggestion. To give you information is to inform you. Inform and advice is not the same things. To inform is to inform, to give the legal advice. And usually attorneys do not give you legal advice. They don't give you legal information to help you win your case, because if they did, they wouldn't have a job. Usually they give you advice, and their advice usually is something that entails you, the court's getting a conviction out of you. Now, to affirm is to state positively. It is not swearing. It's just you right there at the moment stating positively for the record. But an oath is something that you swore by. You should never take an oath. Thou shalt not swear. A contract. A contract is an oath given by signature, mouth, or an oath. And usually this is how the court operates. They don't tell you that they're not operating off of law as far as what's right and what's wrong. They are majorly operating off of contracts, and usually that is by your signature, your oath that you took when you stepped in the court, or your word of mouth. Now, that's what people need to stop doing. They need to stop signing away their rights, or giving away their rights just because they presume that the government, which is really a corporation, is the leading expertise on how you should live your life. And if they were, the economy would not be the way it is now. A lot of things would not be the way they were if the government was doing what it was supposed to do right. But the government is a corporation. That's another farce, a fear, a lie. There's no such thing as government, especially when everyone is endowed with God-given rights. Can no one corporate identity tell the masses of people that they are subject to the corporation's rules and policies because the corporation gave these rules and policies out? No. Instead, they trick people. They give them insurance cards, licenses. Everything you get from the government is trying to turn around and make you a contracted employee. That's the hidden part that they keep hidden from you. So when you go get a driver's license, you are given a right away for a privilege to drive, and therefore after you don't do what the corporation states that you have to do, they can come and take your right to drive because you signed a contract with them that gave you a privilege now instead of a right. So they have the rights to take anything you own because you signed the contract. Now, there is a way out of all this fraud, and I like to emphasize that fraud, because in order to void any contracts, you have to know this about a contract. Contract law states that in order for you to have to be liable for anything, you have to know about it in its entirety, right? These courts and these governments never informed you of the entirety of what they was doing to you. Instead, they just played a game around you, and the game is simply as clear as this. They don't consider themselves doing fraud if you don't know that they are doing fraud. So therefore, in their head, it's legal because they never informed you, but at the same time, you never informed yourself. So they feel like, oh, it's not fraud even though it actually is fraud, because in order for you to sign any contract, they should have explained to you through the driver's license, through insurance, through any contract that they gave you, that they was actually employing you as a government employee. And therefore, fraud voids all contracts. Fraud voids all contracts. And if they never explained this to you at birth, when they gave you a certificate of live birth, that then they took the certificate of live birth and switched it around and made it into a corporate birth certificate, then you by every right win because they are operating in fraud. I would suggest people to look up the definition of fraud in the Black's Law Dictionary, because it will give you a distinct definition of what fraud is. And this is what the courts have been operating off of, fraud. Because before they had you, if they weren't operating off fraud, they would never have to summons you to court to bring life into a document. If they were not operating off fraud, everyone in the United States of America would know that the corporate name, which is your name in all capital letters on every government document that you receive, was representing a corporate artificial person, or that a person in legal definitions means a corporation. Now, therefore, they have not supplied you with everything that you was supposed to know beforehand, before you signed the contract. Therefore, it voids all the contracts. They did not one time, I can't remember any time that they informed any citizen that they were an employee. Now, how do you prove that you are not an employee? It's really simple. You don't get a paycheck from the government. And if they want to try to prosecute you and say you're a government employee, then you got to make them furnish a paycheck that you receive from the government. A lot of people don't have paychecks that they receive from the government. Some people have actually taken oaths to the government. And that is a bad thing. Why? Because they can try you on treason charges, even though you still can get out of the treason charges because they operating on fraud. So these are a couple of more definitions that I think that you should know. What an oath is, because everyone does when they walk into the court. What advice is, because advice doesn't necessarily mean fact. Information means to inform, to give you the necessary knowledge to proceed ahead. To affirm means you state positively. You would usually never want to take an oath. You would want to affirm what you're saying is true. And the bottom line of all courts is contracts. They know they have no legal right over a free man. Therefore, they have to get you in contracts. They have to get you to sign all these contracts. And their main objective to get you to sign all these contracts is usually fear. Usually fear the attorney or a lawyer who comes to get you to cop out. Usually it's a conviction. So conviction is a signed contract. And then that's why they state to you before you sign all these contracts is, was you coerced into doing this? If I was you and I signed a contract, when they bring me out there to say, was I coerced to doing this, I would say, yes, I was coerced. I was coerced by the public defender, the attorney, or the lawyer, who told me if I didn't take this charge that I would be penalized such and such, and therefore I'm taking the charge. So you are being compelled to sign the contract. Next, I'm gonna have to put up a video about documents that you should sign to verify your rights as a free man with the government, so that they understand where you stand and you have legal documentation of where you stand with them. It's going to be pretty interesting. So join back in.